Hello, warriors. Welcome to the U Movement. I am B. And it's a beautiful day, and we have book club happening today, and can't get better than that. So, I just posted on Facebook there on my profile page a little writing about practices. And I wanted to hop on for the people who are on YouTube that don't follow me on my Facebook page or may not see it, because who knows who sees what with all these algorithms. Practices have been huge in my awakening journey. I wouldn't have really called myself an overly disciplined person before. I certainly had routine, but discipline, no, not so much. I wouldn't have called myself overly disciplined. And through this awakening path, the more that I have got in alignment with soul, the more disciplined I have become, and the more practices I have implemented into my daily life. And those practices range from all kinds of different things. From starting as of recently, I practice prayer morning and night, which I had never done really before. I wasn't raised with religion at all. In fact, my household was almost anti-religion and very questioning of anything like that. So I often have described myself as an in-the-closet spiritualist. You know, those were topics we weren't supposed to talk about, even though I was interested from the time I was very young. And where I grew up in Toronto was amazing, because I had friends from all backgrounds. And so having sleepover parties or sleepovers was like the best thing ever for me, especially if it happened to fall on a night where the next day they had to go to church or synagogue. I was like, yes, I get to go to church tomorrow. I get to go to synagogue. I loved going to synagogue because it was like the coolest thing ever for me. So I recently have purchased myself a Bible, which is the Tree of Life version, which refers to Jesus as Yeshua, and it's really deeply embedded with a lot of Jewish perspectives. So it's kind of like a cross between the two religions, which works for me because I don't subscribe to any one particular religion. So I love the fact that I'm able to read the teachings and challenge myself through both, because the first half of the book is the Torah and the second half of the book is the New Testament, but it's written very much in a perspective of a midpoint, which I'm really thoroughly enjoying. Every day I open up and I read a section and I try to figure out what that's all about. I'm not always successful, mind you, but it has provided me a lot of comfort, especially through the last stages of Dark Night of the Soul and some of the overwhelming, heavy-duty, dark spiritual stuff that one goes through on their awakening path, if your awakening's anything like mine. Wowza. So over the last year and a half, 2 years, prayer has been a regular, and some days I'd be practicing prayer from morning to night. Like I wouldn't be able to do anything else. And for those of you who are in very dark night of the souls, you might understand what I'm talking about. How disabling it is, can be very overwhelming. You don't know what's happening. So much confusion. You feel like maybe you're going insane and or schizophrenic or something along those lines. And so much is opening up in your higher chakras that it's too much too soon, especially if you're not prepared for it. And most of us who are in North America, as opposed to those that maybe in India or somewhere like that, haven't been raised for the last 20 years going to a guru and practicing certain practices to prepare ourselves for Kundalini. Kundalini happens in a spontaneous way, and it's like boom, your entire reality begins to collapse, and it collapses very quickly. It's healing on speed. So the practice of prayer, like, dear God, get me through this, has been huge on my awakening path. Another practice that has been huge on my awakening path that I've done loads of videos is aligned walking. And if you don't know what that is, please check out the playlist for aligned walking and dive into that, because every single culture in the world has always had a pilgrimage from as far back as the Atlantean times, where they pilgrimed across as Atlantis was sinking, they pilgrimed across to Egypt, and then in Egyptian times, it was you pilgrimed along the Nile, stopping at certain temples along the way as you were going through your spiritual enlightenment path or your spiritual awakening path. And then, of course, throughout history, we know of Christianity has a lot of pilgrimages around the world. When I lived in Ireland, there was a sacred site near where I lived in the west of Ireland, which was called Crowpatrick, which was a mountain that people would pilgrimage every single day, once a year on a specific day. Or there's pilgrimages in Spain and other places. I also went to Fatima at some stage about 15 or so years ago, which is another location that people pilgrimage to. And then even if you look at from a tribal perspective, or ancient cultures, you look at the Aborigine peoples who do walkabout in Australia as a part of their awakening or enlightenment, connecting to spirit, or the native populations do very much, a sacred quest, a spirit quest, where they would go off on their own. So some of the components of pilgrimage that were huge for my journey was, one, posture. Being in absolute correct alignment, and so in so doing, you are allowing the spine to have the flow of energy go up and down and open the crown chakra, so that you're connecting into spirit. So no hats. And getting in perfect posture was a practice for me because my body was so mangled. So if you think of it like mountain pose and sucking those abdominals in to re-engage the core muscles, so that the energy can flow up and down the spine, because this is really the highway to the divine, is the spine's health. I used to have a buffalo hump, believe it or not, many years ago. That I was told would never heal. I would have that for the rest of my life, and I showed them that was wrong, because my back is as straight as possible. Like, my posture is incredible now. And part of that was also fixing my feet, because I had done a lot of dance and figure skating as a young person, and so I was always with my feet splayed open, walking heavy. The sides of my shoes and the heels would always be calloused and worn down, and so learning to recorrect in mindfulness as I'm out walking, feet forward, feet forward, feet forward, feet forward, feet forward. And then that would realign my hips, which realigned everything else, which helped cure my peripheral neuralgia down the left leg. It also helped cure a lot of pains and aches that I had in my thighs. That was fibromyalgia related. And then all around the band of the piriformis and the back began to stretch out, because it was put back where it was supposed to be, as opposed to everything like clenched up. And I used to clench everything in my butt muscles, because that's where I would hold a lot of my tension and be stoic, and so that learned to relax and release over time as well. So my low back is 90% to 95% completely pain-free now, compared to where it was 5 years ago. I couldn't walk up a flight of stairs without some assistance or pulling myself up, because the pain in my low back was too extreme. So through the practice of mindful meditation, walking, just focused solely on the body. That's the point. That's what you're being mindful about. Mindful is not about a Zen meditation of trying to clear your mind. It's trying to hyper focus your mind. And to somebody who has had a lot of complex post-traumatic stress disorder, your mind is constantly in a state of rumination or predicting or catastrophizing and all these other things. So your mind can't do that when you're focused on the body. Where are my feet? Where are my knees? Where are my hips? Where is my stomach? Where are my shoulders? Where is my head? Am I looking up or am I looking down? I was notorious, which I have recently found out is a trait of people who are on the autistic spectrum, of not looking at people in the eye. I found that very uncomfortable. I would always look down. So that's probably in part how I developed a hump on my back, because I was always kind of a little bit, I didn't like, but I've learned through this practice of head up, and looking at people. So as I'm walking by, I'd be sure to look at people and smile now. And it's a practice because it's not my comfort zone looking people in the eye. But that has its own values and tools that I've learned are really necessary to be able to read people, which I wasn't before, because I wouldn't look I'd always look away. And so I highly recommend as a practice if you're trying to lose weight, because it not only helped me lose over 135 pounds, it helped me reconnect to spirit, because with that antenna, which is our spine, nice and straight, all of a sudden as I'd be out walking, I'd be getting all kinds of downloads, so to speak. And I call those downloads like when we get connection or impulses or messages from spirit, and we're like, yeah. So the practice of aligned walking or mindful meditation is a practice that has been hugely beneficial to me on my spiritual quest journey. A third practice that has been absolute, that I've talked about in many videos, and really recommend everybody get into, is the practice of yin yoga. And yin yoga has really helped me correct all of what was wrong with my body, as I viewed it as like my own personal physical therapy. And instead of going to a physical therapist and having them move me around, my yin yoga practice was my own practice to realign the musculature as well as the fascia. And if you don't know a lot about fascia and how very important it is, please find on YouTube or Instagram the group called Human Garage, and they do all kinds of very weird and interesting stretchings that are designed to release the fascia, because when the fascia gets all like gnarly and knotted, and you get those trigger points, so you can have a lot of physical pain. So that brings me on to my next practice, is a pain practice. For a very long period of time, I utilized tools that would bring about more pain to help release those knots and trigger points. So using trigger point release balls became a practice for a long period of time, as well as cupping, massage, hydrojet therapy on it. So my pain practice, in going into the pain and really putting pressure on the areas that hurt and really working into these areas, I really relieved a lot of physical problems with my body. And so I don't need to do that very much anymore. I do more of a practice now of more gentle somatic movement, since I have reduced my body size and my weight to such an extent that I'm really able now to get to the root of everything, which is my nervous system. So I don't want to put a trigger point ball on an area that's more nerve related. But when I was bigger and I had much larger musculature, because I've lost a good bit of muscle mass as well as the fat, which is a good thing, because the muscle mass that I was carrying was armoring the trauma. So our body's armor and surround as we have trauma experiences in our lives. As we have traumatic experiences in our lives, our musculature kind of builds up around it. And because of that, it had a lot of deep muscle knots, and that's where a lot of the pain that I associated as inflammation deep within the tissue, which is what fibromyalgia is. So as I've gone through the healing process and practiced this pain process of massaging and trigger point, it's released the trauma that was stored in the muscle, and as that released, the muscle began to decrease in size. I haven't been doing strength training through my awakening. That's probably my next step, because first goal was working towards losing what was problematic before I attempted to build upon it. Another practice that I have been utilizing throughout my awakening is breath work, and I have a playlist for breath work. There's all kinds of different breath works that are out there, and depending on what it is that you're wanting to accomplish, there's intense warrior kind of breath work that's like an hour of like heavy breathing with intermittent holds and things like that. And I absolutely love those, especially as a means to transmute trauma. If you're trying to release emotion that's trapped in your body that you haven't been able to release, whether that be grief, sorrow, anger, rage, breath work, I highly, highly recommend. But on the other end of the spectrum, when it comes to breath work, if you're trying to calm your nervous system, which is where I'm at now, what I'm really focusing on is, instead of the fast breathing techniques, is moving into the slow and steady breathing techniques. And I'm finding this is particularly useful for where I'm at in my healing journey now, is I've moved out of the fast breathing stuff and moved into the slower breathing stuff. That's deep belly breathing, deep, slow breaths. At any given moment throughout the day, if I have a fearful thought, which has been the last thing that I've been trying to cultivate, is trying to cultivate safety after everything that I've been through. So in so doing, I'll have a thought and I'm like, oh, I don't like this thought. This could send me into like more bad thoughts, more fearful thoughts. Okay, take 3 deep belly breaths and inhale. And as you inhale, push your stomach out, like you're filling your stomach with like a balloon, and focusing the breath as deep down into the stomach as you possibly can, and then releasing. And do that 3 times, and then check, okay, where's my thinking now? Do I need to do that again? No? Okay, so that is one simple, tiny little tool that you can utilize if you're having a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear, and you're doing shallow breathing. If you catch yourself up here, and this is where we hold on to all of our, a lot of our fear and anxiety is, we're clenching at the higher regions, and if you're, so relax. This is okay. You're safe to breathe. You're safe. Which brings me to another practice, is the practice of affirmations and mantra. Retraining your brain, reprogramming, and reparenting is huge on this awakening journey that you may find yourself on, because as you're going through these shifts and changes, it can be very overwhelming, it can be confusing, it can be fearful, it can be emotional. So parenting yourself through the process, being in the observer and saying, it's okay. Think of what you would say to somebody else that you love, your child, your best friend, or somebody like that else that's going through it, and then, it's okay. It's okay. It's safe. You're safe. You're safe to be afraid. You're safe to cry. You're safe. This too shall pass. So self-comfort and care are another practice that I have utilized along my awakening path, and you need to reparent, because if you were raised in a particularly harsh or critical environment where you were shamed for having emotions, then learning that it's safe to have emotions again is going to be a practice. It's not something that you're going to be able to just go, oh, okay, I've just spent the last 50 years repressing my emotions, and now I'm going to like suddenly know how to do them. You have to learn how to have emotions. I had to learn that. Like, I had to learn that it was okay, you know, because it wasn't something that was ever okay to me. I was very good at saying all the time, yeah, no, I'm fine. Or in trying to communicate, still trying to be stoic and hold everything in and be like, everything's, I think, you know, I don't want to let people see me cry. Having people see me cry was, oh my God, it was embarrassing. It became a downward spiral, because I'd get embarrassed. And then when I was embarrassed, I'd get mad at myself. I didn't like being embarrassed because I was mocked as a child quite severely. So being shamed and embarrassed was beyond humiliating to me. And so I always tried to be in my... So now it's like I have to retrain and reprogram the mind to say, it's okay to feel, it's okay to emote, it's okay to cry, it's okay to, you know, be angry, it's okay. So affirmations, as well as you know, that the practice of caring for self and showing compassion for self. So those are some practices as well that I've had to cultivate along the path, which is, you know, the practice of self-forgiveness, the practice of self-compassion, the practice of self-love. And that's a practice. We have to learn how to love each other. And we have to learn how to love ourselves. It's not something that I think most people were ever grown up learning how to do, because there was always conditions upon if we were lovable or if we weren't. If we showed up a certain way, we were lovable. But if we didn't, if we broke out of that small little box in any way, shape, or form, and, you know, failed a test, or said something wrong, or acted out, or emoted, you know, we were then unlovable, punished, or sent to your room, or given a look, or made fun of, ridiculed, critiqued, judged, any of those types of things. So there became a practice of boundaries, establishing boundaries. I don't accept those types of energies from people anymore. I don't allow people to criticize me and lay judgment on me and mock me. Sarcasm is a hard no. I don't tolerate any of those things. I don't tolerate name calling, anything like that. So I had to learn the practice of boundaries, and it is a practice, establishing boundaries, because you will be constantly challenged and tested over and over and over again. You set up a boundary with somebody, they're going to try to breach it because it wasn't there before, and so you set it up again, and if they keep breaching it, then your boundary gets a lot wider, looks like no contact. And then other people will come in and they'll be like, well, can I jump over this boundary? And you're like, well, no, because it's a boundary. So if that's the way that you're going to behave, then it doesn't work for me. So good luck with that. You know, you can let somebody know what your boundaries are. And if they don't want to respect them, that's okay. They don't have to respect them, but they don't get to have access to you anymore. The boundary becomes really wide if that's the case. Other practices that I have been huge on this awakening is the practice of listening to body, and through the yin yoga particularly, it helps you connect to body. So the body starts to communicate to you, you know, when it's hungry, what it's hungry for, if it actually wants food. Maybe it wants to fast for a little bit, because the more I treated my own body like it's the guru, the more in tune with self I became. So I didn't follow, and people have been asking me lately to come up with, and I will do another video on what my diet plan was, because my diet plan was based on research, but it was also based on the practice of listening to my body. Because despite people saying, oh, you need to have 3 meals a day, or you need to have breakfast at this time, or you need to anything, I threw all of that out the window, and I asked my body what it needs. And my body was like, I'm not hungry right now, I'm good, I just want some water. Okay, water is what you get. Or my body would say, I'm starving right now, I want a heavier meal today, and so I'd make myself a heavier meal. My body would crave specific foods, and I would give those foods to it because it wasn't craving things. Once you eliminate sugar, gluten, and dairy, or at least sugar at the very bare minimum, you stop having craving for things that's going to be feeding the candida. It's really the candida that's hungry for the sugar. It's not your brain. It's like your brain's been hijacked. And so when you eliminate sugar and you clear the candida from your body begins to send you signals like, I'm hungry for spinach. And then you're like, okay, I'm gonna make some spinach. Or I'm hungry for citrus. Oh, okay, I guess I need some vitamin C. So cultivating the practice of listening to the body has been a massive thing on this. And it's on that topic, my body has known things all the way along that I negated. I gaslit myself and my body all the time, you know, like, you need to have 3 meals. Oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. And really, in reality, my body had senses about things that I didn't give it credit for, and I give it credit for it now, for sure. So another thing that I practice now is celibacy, and it's, my body is like, no, that's not something we're going to go with right now. We've got enough to worry about with resetting the nervous system and realigning ourselves with safety. So things like dating and, you know, yeah, that's a hard no. And that's not subscribed from any kind of religious dogma or anything like that. It's just what my body wants. And so I give my body exactly what it wants. Isolation has been a practice throughout this awakening journey. You are often brought into a state of hermiting or for a very long period of time, and that's it has served me greatly, because otherwise, as I've talked a lot about in different videos, I had very codependent traits, reliant upon trauma bonds, and in so doing, that kept me distracted and focused outside of myself instead of focused inside of myself and you know, inside of spirit. So I've basically been in pretty much an isolated state for probably close to 7 years at this stage of the game. That's not to say I don't see any humans. I do, just I don't have very much interaction with people on a day-to-day basis. I spend a large majority of my time, probably, you know, 80% of my time, and now it's getting less and it's going down. There was a stage that I was like 90% of my time was in basic isolation, and that may not be possible for all people. Depends on your situation, and you know, if you have kids, I have kids that are adults, so they do their own thing, you know, they're coming and going as they please. But so we might have a 20-minute conversation in a day, and that's really kind of about it. So spending a lot of time on your own is a practice. It's learning to be with yourself, comfortable with yourself, loving yourself. And it then becomes, everything you do becomes a practice when you're on your own. You know, doing the dishes becomes a practice of mindfulness, doing the gardening, doing cleaning, whatever. It's all about realigning with self, which has been hugely beneficial for me on this awakening path. I can see that it's starting to open up as more and more people are starting to come into my sphere, from, you know, clients, from contacts, from followers, from interactions with friends now that I'm new friends that I'm meeting, as soul tribe starts to come together and things like that. So it's a new phase, but for a very long period of time I was in the phase of hermiting and isolation. Practices in general have been healing practices. Grounding has been massive. Massive. I can't say enough about grounding. I have a playlist on that. If you're going through a tumultuous time in your spiritual awakening and you need some help, please practice some grounding. And I can hear that somebody's about to set their lawnmower off, so I take that as a sign that it's it's time to love and leave you. If you have any questions about some of the practices that I have used, feel free to drop me a comment down below. I really greatly appreciate. There's another practice, the practice of gratitude. I really greatly appreciate all of the likes, the shares, and the subscriptions that I receive on my channel. And with that said, peace out.